welcome to another episode of Investing in Intellectual Property with Dave. Today we have very special guests with us. This dynamic duo has founded and created the Guardian Cap, which is mandated by the NFL and is worn by over 200,000 athletes at a number of levels, from high school to college and the pros. Please help me welcome Erin and Lee Hanson.
Hey,
Good to see you.
How is it going?
We're doing well. Thanks for asking.
Oh, so I wanted to, I know we were talking offline a little bit, and I appreciate you guys giving me some time here today to talk about your guys' product, which is exploded. As a former, I guess, collegiate football player, I mean, my days at Michigan State was back in 2010, 11 was the time I kind of stopped playing. And so nowadays, I'm still a big fan of the game. So as I'm watching the game, you see like these different caps on the helmets and things like that. I always wonder, like, what was that? Or what are those things? And I kind of start to do a little bit more research. And so it's cool to be able to actually kind of talk to the brains behind the operation. And I know I was telling you guys before I actually purchased one for myself to kind of go through. But I guess maybe start out. What made this come to be as far as Guardian Cap? Because from my understanding, you all have other businesses going on prior to this. So what made you guys say, okay, let's kind of tackle, pun intended, the whole football and the sports arena?
Sure. It was 2010 that we were probably standing at our kitchen counter working on the prototype for Guardian Cap. So we just missed your playing days. But Lee started the Hanson Group. It's a material science technology company. Lee by trade is a chemical engineer. So he started that in 1996. We're getting old, Dave, I'm telling you. So he has so many, different people coming to the Hanson Group asking for material science solutions. And so, I mean, anything from golf ball covers, the technology behind golf ball covers, to anti-ballistic glass for the military, coatings.
just elastomers, coatings, all different types of material science type geeky stuff.
That's the real stuff, the stuff that makes the world go round.
Science behind products.
It really does. And so because of that, we had a great patent attorney behind us from the very beginning, who was also a neighbor and friend, which was a great relationship to have, because when you are developing things all B2B and you're selling to other companies, whoever's working with you thinks you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, that you've solved a problem for them.
Yep.
But then when the new guard comes in, it's like, oh, we forgot about that. We've been, we've had this product on, going out to customers successfully for 10 years. I can't remember who you are again. So unless you've got that technology patented and protected,
yep.
So we learned those lessons very, very early on. And so someone had come to Lee and said, we really want to work on flexing the exterior shell of a football helmet, because, the helmets were designed to prevent skull fractures. The switch from a leather helmet to a polycarbonate helmet was designed to prevent skull fractures and had nothing to do with the brain. And so, as we got into 2010 is when really more information started. That's Will Smith's movie came out and Concussion came out. And, we really started to look at what is the impact of all those repeated hits. How is that impacting the brain? And so someone came to really work on the technology to flex the exterior shell and mitigate forces. And Lee worked on it, solved the problem, but kind of ahead of its time.
Yeah. Yeah, when we first came out with that, the shell of the helmet that was
Yep.
called, it was before its time. And so we left that a meeting that we had. People weren't that interested, and we said, hey, you know what? I think we can come up with something a little bit better. And so we had the mechanism, we had the science behind it.
Yep.
And so Erin and I sat down and started piecing things together.
Do you want to do it?
Were you guys big sports fan before all this? Because I know you said you had the material science company. Were you all big into like sports and football and all that beforehand, or is this kind of what brought you into?
Well, probably I would say no. I'd say football fan, yes, because football was the mechanism that helped my family change trajectories. My grandfather was a coal miner, and 8 children, and my dad was destined for the mines. So
We
you
live in
know,
West Virginia. There wasn't much else to do. Go back in the mines. He was one of the great football players at the time. I think he was like 6'2", 220-pound fullback. And he was all Ohio Valley, and he got recruited by, I mean, one of the funniest stories was he had like 37 scholarships to go around the country.
Yep.
And one day, somebody came knocking on his door. He had the flu inside. And they said, "Who is it?" He said, "It's Bear Bryant." And his mother said, "He can't come see you. He's got the flu."
Really?
but he ended up at Purdue and, majored in economics and then went on to get his master's in finance. So for us, football, maybe not a fan of watching the sport as much as a fan of what the sport could do for young men and,
Yep.
the discipline it gave him and the opportunities it gave him. Seeing football from a safety perspective came after raising 4 daughters and then having a son who wanted to play football. So, we were real willing to sit on our hands and say, we've got enough going with the Hanson Group. I don't know if we want to get into the helmet space, and nobody's biting on this technology. So if we do this, we're going to have to go direct to consumer. We weren't set up to go direct to consumer. And so I had been a math teacher by trade and raised 5 kids, and Lee said, "Hey, if we're going to do this and we have a calling to do it, you got to come on board." So that's when we said, you know what, we're going to go for it. We feel like we have a responsibility to help if we can. And so we decided, how can we make a one-size-fits-all product that retrofits every helmet out there? And how can we do it inexpensively and really protect these players' brains and body parts? I mean, it's helmet to elbow and rib and knee and all of that as well. And so that's kind of the birth of Guardian. And so that was lots of patent applications and development work and testing and all of it.
So I understand that the original, because what we see today as far as the removable cap, and then you have the 707 version of the cap, it was initially started out to be like a softer helmet that you guys were maybe tasked with potentially doing, as opposed to the actual cap that is removably attached to the helmet.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the helmet space is a tough nut to crack. I mean, I think Riddell's got 90-something% of the market. Schutt, Vices are right behind him. Vices is relatively new, and Zenith. But that's tough. You've got guys who have been using the same manufacturer for generations. So they're not going to suddenly switch. And, for us, that would have been a monumental, well, I don't know, the Guardian cap was an easier, but
It would take a lot
in
more
our
to
brains back then.
manufacturing the tooling. That would have been a lot bigger expense.
Yep.
What we did, and our goal was to create something that was affordable for every kid that was out there. Vices, when they first came out with their padded shell, they were the first ones that came out with a padded shell, flexible shell. They were $1,500 a piece. Not many people could pay $1,500 for a helmet. And we were selling our Guardian caps for what about that?
I think they were $40 back before the supply chain got so expensive with shipping and all of that stuff. Even now online, our cap is $69, but for most teams, we'll do team deals and it gets down to the 50s.
Okay.
And for youth, they last a good 5 years. So you're looking at $10 a year. So that was the mission of the company, was to make it affordable and make it easy for coaches. They don't have to say, I've got this many of this helmet, this many of that size. It is the same cap that's being worn by 5-year-olds is the one being used at the college level.
No, nice. So then, did you guys get any pushback from, because like you said, Riddell, then just coming up, I remember always using a Riddell helmet, and I think they're out of Illinois, if I'm not mistaken, with them kind of leading the way as relates to the helmet space, and then you have someone coming in and looking to do something completely different. I know now it seems like hopefully the smoke is clear, because this isn't something that necessarily takes over the helmet, but to be used along with the helmet. But initially, did you guys get a lot of pushback from helmet manufacturers such as Riddell on kind of try to develop something?
Obstacle to cross. I think very, very beginning, the testing was showing that it was reducing the impact up to a third, up to 33%.
Okay.
So there was no doubt that there was a benefit to it.
Yep.
And so that part we felt very comfortable with. The looks were something to get over. Nobody wants to change the look of a helmet that they've that they've worn for years, and the looks were tough. But the hardest challenge for us was the helmet companies. You know, Riddell doesn't want anyone to put something on their helmet, and I understand that, you know, you've got all these people out there who want to stick their product on it. We tried to do the testing that was necessary to show that we did not cause any of their helmets to fail the certification for which, you know, the testing for which they were certified. But it's still, you know, I think you're competing for budget dollars, and it's easy to walk into a coach and say, hey, coach, you know, what do you have to spend this year? And he says, you know, I've got 10 grand. I'm going to spend 9 grand on, you know, helmets and uniforms with you, Mr. Riddell sales guy, and I'm going to spend $1,000 on Guardian, and him say, well, you know, we don't want that on our helmet. And he says, okay, well then you get that extra 1,000 for shoulder pads. You know, I mean, you're competing, and I don't think the average consumer understands. I mean, it's a business, you know.
Yep. And I think Dave, a big part of it was coming back to where you're at today is with patents. Is Robert Erb, who was the CEO of Shut Sports, came to us and he said, Lee and Erin, y'all done a great job. You come up with a solution. You've made it better. But the problem is you've wrapped it all up with patents, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it except work with you, and we don't want to work with you.
Really?
Unless it's invented here, they own it. They don't want
He started there, and then Robert was a great guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
But he saw what it was doing for players. He asked to be he even offered to distribute the product.
Okay.
But we declined because we didn't want that extra level of price increase to go into it. And so we stayed independent. But that was the biggest challenge. And that challenge still remains today. We still have pushback. So
I have a question. Again, I have one here.
that's
the loop. That's for 707 and flag football.
Yep, no, for sure. So, yep, you have the one that's for the helmets. Yep. So I have the loop for 707. I was going to purchase one of those, but I don't have any use for it these days. Not. But I guess just I was kind of bringing this up. So what is the difference? Because as you look at it, and we all know if you have a helmet as you had it, you have the soft pad inside that's maybe covered by a hard exterior shell. So then, as far as what makes the Guardian cap maybe unique, as well as as far as going over the helmet, is it just another soft material, or is it kind of maybe how it's structured, or like what's the?
I'm going to show you real quick.
Okay.
What it looks like on the helmet. It just Velcros over it.
Gotcha.
But it is literally 7 ounces. I mean, it's light as a feather.
Yep.
It's just a 7-ounce covering, and the way that it works is that it just lays on top of the helmet, and then the Velcro straps wrap around the fastening, so it doesn't alter the helmet in any way. It's not glued on. It's not Velcro. You know, the Velcro strap goes around the face mask and attached to itself. And so the fact that it's floating on top, you get the impact reduction because it's padded, obviously. I mean, the quarterback's not going to break a thumb coming down and, you know, hitting the linebacker in front of him. You've got independent movement. And so it's kind of like the MIP system for racing.
Okay.
You've got the direct impact reduction, but when you move that cap around, it's floating on top, you're redirecting the forces around the head instead of through it. So there's that. And then it also insulates the helmet. So it keeps the helmet underneath up to 20-something degrees cooler.
Nice. No, and that's a big, what you said about when a quarterback throws the ball and he comes down, he hit his hands on the quarterback on a helmet. That's when the Rams called and had him overnighted. The year that they won the Super Bowl, in the first practice of the season, Matt Stafford came through, cracked his thumb. They thought he was going to be out for the season. So they made sure that everybody around him had Guardian caps on every practice after that. Really?
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. But we get a lot of feedback from players that it's just not having that loud crack and the vibration of that loud crack, so that it's that as well. It's dampening those noises and those sounds and vibration.
And technology moves so fast. I know you said this came out around the 2010 frame. By the time I stopped playing, and as a person who had numerous concussions and maybe is still paying for it today, it's like, man, this would have been the thing that I needed as I was coming up, because it could have probably saved me a few headaches.
Well, we do a bang test where we'll bang them together. You put your hand between and you just bang two helmets together, and it it doesn't even hurt. But I did that in front of a room of former NFL players. And I banged two hard shell helmets together, and it was like gunshots. They all kind of winced. It's like, no, we remember that sound. And then you bang two with Guardian caps, and it's just a soft thud. So it definitely dampens all of that.
And I saw the video you guys did where you had the hand in
Yeah.
the middle of the two helmets. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm not sure if I can get that demonstration from you all, but I thought that was pretty cool. And because you said it doesn't hurt at all.
Nah, it doesn't.
You want to bang me or?
Yeah, you do, Bide. Here, I'll show you. Let me see if I can get in the frame. Can you get my hand?
Just go.
Stand
Stand up.
No, you got it right there.
Okay, so like that. So I'm going to take these two helmets and I'm going to come like this. So
I mean, it's just your pads.
That's
Yeah.
unbelievable. So then, and again, with this channel having an aspect of or a perspective of IP, so at what point was it important? And again, maybe Lee, you probably already knew the importance of this because of the Hanson Group and understanding. I'm assuming that you have a lot of patents around that material science space, having that company. At what point did you say, okay, we need to actually protect this?
at the beginning,
At the beginning?
just because we knew what we had
Yep.
and the benefit we were providing to people. Not only do we want to patent it for ourselves, but we want to patent it for everybody else to make sure they get a high quality product coming out. People will try to rip off anything and make a cheap version of it. And so what we do is we patent the design, we patent the inner workings of it, the materials, we patent everything.
I think that absolutely,
Mhm.
Because Hanson had always been B2B, we started out Guardian thinking we'd sell it to one of the helmet companies. So we wanted it protected before we went out, and
Yep.
just nobody was interested. To them, it was as though saying their helmet wasn't good enough. And, we said, your helmet does what it was designed to do. It prevents skull fractures, but
Yep.
there's no reason not to take every bit of impact off in practice that you can.
Yep.
And then you look good for game day. Your decals look better, your paint looks better, your players feel better. So yeah, we went ahead and wrapped it up in patents right off the bat.
So then, because obviously with football, and I understand that I'm not sure if you guys are having a hockey cap, correct, coming out, or is it out?
It's right here. It's right here. Yeah. All we did was shrunk it down so that it would
Yep.
fit a hockey helmet as well.
Okay. And the reason I asked that is because, and I'm sure you all know, okay, it's one thing to protect it in the U.S. via a patent, but you also have like a PCTE application where it protects in different countries. So I would imagine that I know football, even though I think they do have football in other countries, and it's not as big as here in the U.S. But obviously hockey is a big thing worldwide. So do you take steps to protect it abroad as well as domestically, or are you just saying, hey, we want to protect it here and kind of maybe go from there?
Right now, we just protect. We did not file international on it because
Okay.
football is so big in the U.S. And
Yep.
again, this was a mission program for us. It was a give back program. And if you start filing patents around the world, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars, $50,000, $60,000 to do so. And it was one of those situations like, all right, we want to protect it in these states, and that's good enough for now.
No, for sure. And I actually I was on your guys' website, and I like that you list the patents right there so people can see them. I'm not sure why everybody doesn't do that, just kind of put everybody or the public on notice, like, hey, we have patents on here, so for you trolls or infringers, potential infringers, think twice before you have it. But then just people coming to it, they can say, okay, they can see that this is a real deal and this is a protected invention, and that they put time and effort into everything. So
A lot of testing, there was a lot of lab testing before we got started, and then there's a lot of university testing, and it takes a long time to really have proof of concept, because it's a health related safety item, you're held to a higher standard. And so, everybody wants that published, white paper that, the university has published, but if you're involved in any of it, then there's a conflict of interest. So how do you get a university interested in your product that wants to put money into testing? That just takes time. It
Sure.
just takes, and luckily for us, the NFL launched that Health Tech Challenge in 2015, I think, or 2017.
17.
2017. and we were the, first winner of the Head Health Tech Challenge. So that really opened doors for us because it paid for testing, and the NFL's done a phenomenal job of having state of the art. I mean, they've got cameras at every practice. They're using AI. They're recording every hit. They're looking at trajectories. I mean, velocities. They're looking at absolutely everything. And so that was a godsend for us.
So I saw you guys had won the challenge in 2017. I would imagine up until this point in time, maybe the NFL, they were maybe mildly interested in things, but at what point, because at this point, this thing is mandated by the NFL. So at what point did they become extremely interested in the product and not just, okay, for testing purposes, but we want our athletes, our talents to actually wear the product?
Not really until about 2020. And so I think when they allowed it on their fields, because it's one thing to have proof of concept for what it does in the lab, but they also have to make sure that there's no adverse incidents with the neck, like you're reducing impact on the head, but are you torquing the neck? And there was a lot of feedback throughout the press of, but it's going to grab, it's going to stick, which it doesn't do. The exterior fabric that we cover it with has a lower coefficient of friction than the shell. And because it's moving, there's independent movement. So it's not adding additional risk to the neck. But the NFL has to make sure, right? You solve one problem, or you causing another. And so they needed that validation first. They allowed it in 2020. I think it was 2020
that they mandated it.
No. Yeah, is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2022, you're absolutely right. Like 2022, they went so far as to mandate because their practice concussions had really gotten out of hand. And they reduced practice concussions over 50%, which is a pretty enormous percentage in the medical space. And then this year they reported an additional 52%. So they said, hey, this was not a 1-year anomaly. It's actually doing exactly what you said it was going to do. And they expanded the mandate to more position groups and throughout the entire season instead of just a preseason. So I think next year there's going to be another expansion.
How was it? Was it like a weight lifted off the shoulders when you kind of got that stamp of approval from the NFL of, hey, we're going to be using this thing?
Honestly, our mission was the young developing brain, really impact off that young developing brain where the neck isn't very strong yet. And we felt youth was our real passion calling. Yep. But the youth don't do anything that the big guys aren't doing. So when Clemson and South Carolina, Alabama and Georgia and Florida, those guys stepped in, that really helped high school. But you don't even get quite the amount of recognition that obviously the NFL's the NFL. Once they see it in practices on the NFL, that kind of writes your story for you. So that's really helped tremendously.
So how did it break through to college? Because I understand that, again, in 2017, you guys won a challenge with the NFL. Did that help out with the college ranks, or was it another, avenue or another way that you guys was able to break in college?
Right place, right time. You things that you don't want to do, that you show up and you put a table, and we had one in Destin, Florida.
There's a medical
conference in 2012, and we set up a table, and it was crickets. Every table around us that had knees and braces and all of that, everybody had so many people at their table, and Lee and I looked at each other like, this is brutal.
Yeah, what are we doing here?
After having success on the Hanson Group side.
I'm a successful company I can go run. I don't need this.
Yeah.
No, it's like you guys are a bunch of snake oil salesmen, and it's humbling. It's really humbling. You have to be willing to be laughed at and pointed at, the whole thing. But on the last day, we said, let's just close up and go to lunch. And the guy came around.
Yes, his name, Dr. Guy. Dr. Guy, who was the number one doctor or whatever for University of South Carolina.
He was this,
and he sat there and team search, and he sat there and talked to us about 45 minutes. Goes, this really makes a lot of sense. I get it. Said, I'm going to go back and talk to the coach and Spurrier at the time and recommend they do that. And about 3 weeks later, we got a phone call. Can you get some down here for spring practice? And that's when Jadavian Clowney was playing for South Carolina. And we went down to one of the practices and got to see Jadavian practicing in it.
Yeah, it was really cool. Then Clemson picked it up, and it kind of went from there. And then as the coaches, as guys like Spurrier went from school to school, they took it with them because they were like, I've got a full roster.
Yep.
You know, I'm not losing guys during the week. And so, you know, they were, you know,
And word of mouth,
word of mouth for sure. But it
No,
takes that one person to take a shot, you know,
Yep.
to give you a chance.
And I was going to say that's pretty interesting because of that in college or just coaching in general, where you have people getting fired or leaving, going to different programs, just being able to benefit from the fact that somebody's leaving the school and going to another school and saying, "Hey, we did that at my prior school. We're going to kind of take this same the cap and use it at this school." So it seems like that would have really
Probably started at Houston, took it to Oklahoma, took it to USC.
Yeah.
He's scared everywhere.
We're still not on Michigan. We got Michigan State, still not on Michigan. So maybe with the coach changes,
Yeah.
maybe.
look at this is due to somebody health. I mean, this is dealing with some people health. So hopefully everybody kind of gets it for their safety and whatnot. But
You're on 23, the top 25 last year, just not Michigan.
right, exactly. I'm a Michigan State guy, so if we can have a couple of those guys out for at least when we play them, then at some point, I guess they'll jump on board.
See, we're trying to give you guys an advantage.
Right, there you go. So I like it. I like it. So when you guys when the college realm where at that level became successful, then at that point did the high schools and everybody just kind of jump on
Yeah,
on
just
board?
areas around the colleges. You know, if you can go to South Georgia and say, hey, we're on University of Georgia. You know, if you can go to Florida and say, hey, we're on the Gators, we're on Florida State, that means something to those high school coaches.
That's interesting because you would have thought that it would have been okay when the NFL gave it their stamp of approval. Everybody would have just followed suit, and maybe it was like that to a certain extent. But it seems like the colleges within that the state was more of a bigger.
Well, the NFL, like 2022, that they started mandating it. This was earlier in the
2012.
2012, 2013. That's when the colleges and high schools started.
And honestly, I don't know that the NFL would have been aware of us had the colleges not picked it up first.
So the colleges picked it up first, and then the NFL came later. Then
college guys that graduate, they go on to the NFL. They say, "Hey, I've been wearing this Guardian cap my whole college career. Why are y'all not using them?" So,
oh, this is very so with the Hanson group. And I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, so I'm assuming that you guys still have that. Are you guys just kind of all in with Guardian, or are you guys still back and forth between the Hanson group and Guardian?
It's pretty cool. We've got a facility. We've got about 90,000 square feet in Atlanta. And so the Hanson Group has their offices on one side, and then it's all warehouse manufacturing in the middle, and then the Guardian offices are on the other. So Lee runs back and forth all day long.
here's my exercise. Keep me alone.
Right? No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's it. So how many patents do you have, Lee?
I think I got about 16 or 17 patents that we own that are assigned to us. I've helped with other patents that are not assigned to us.
Yep.
And I'm authored on other ones, but the ones that we own are about 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Some still in the pipeline.
In the pipeline.
Got so how much of, and I'm not sure if you will know the answer to this question. And the reason I'm asking this is because I had Big B a couple weeks ago, the owner of Big B Coffee. It's kind of based out of Michigan, East Lansing, Michigan, but they have almost 400 locations between Michigan and have some in Florida and Ohio and Illinois and some other states, particularly in the Midwest. And they have like trademarks. Again, it's a coffee company, so they don't have patents per se, but they still have trademarks. And he said that a lot of the valuation of the company is wrapped up in the IP. So have you found that? And obviously, you have and his company with Big B Coffee, they have the operating side of the company, which is the side or a company that actually sells the coffee and whatnot. But then he has a separate company that just owns the IP. That again, the operating side pays the company that owns the IP 10% or whatever it is every year. Do you I guess Phil, or have you ever kind of did that work to say, okay, how valuable is these patents from just a monetary standpoint? Obviously, they have value to them. You can build a company, but have you ever been able to kind of get some type of analysis done where you can kind of point to a value of the actual value of the patents?
Honestly, we've been too busy growing the business.
Gotcha. Okay.
Erin and I privately fund the whole business, so we own 100%. We don't have outside investors, so there's really been no need to get any valuation on it. I guarantee you there is value in the patents that we have, the trademarks that we have. I mean, the reason we came out with a loop is Zenith up in Detroit area up there developed the loop, And that it was a situation where the Guardian name and the brand is synonymous with safety now. You go to Dick's Sporting Goods or Academy, and they Guardian is synonymous with safety. And so Zenith and us formed a venture with the Loop, and we call it the Guardian Zenith Loop. And it's really taken off this year. And I think a lot of that is with the value of the name Guardian. I mean, what we got up there.
That's what you were all day. It's just a headband style, just for, starting with 7-on-7 and flag, but obviously, it could expand into soccer, cheerleading, volleyball, all of that. But we just, anything we can do to take impact off of players.
Yeah, and on that one, I mean, Virginia Tech does a rating all soft headgear for flag football, and that one's ranked number 3. It's a 5-star. It's ranked number 3 on the list, and it's also, because of what we're doing with Guardian, we've made it the most affordable.
Yeah, we were able to manufacture for a lot less, so save some money, and we're able to discount it to the consumer.
So how did that come about in terms of the 707? Was it always a plan at some point to kind of reach? Because seems like a perfect time. I think I was reading the other day where I think the Olympics that's coming up, maybe in Los Angeles will have like a 7-on-7 portion of it. So it seems like this is like the perfect time to be able to kind of take off with the Loop cap. So was that always a thing that you guys wanted to do, or just kind of came with by way of this partnership with Guardian?
Yeah, it was always in the back of our minds. But when Tony Saunders took over as CEO of Zenith, when he took over, he said, "Hey, Erin and Lee, you seem like you've got a great sales team set up. We've got e-commerce, all of those things that we had to, set up from very early on." And he said, "I'm not reaching the number of players that I want to reach. Would you be interested in partnering?" And because he did his homework and he did have the testing, and they had so much already done, it was a better idea for us to partner with them. Do the manufacturing so we could save on costs there, but manufacture the product that he had already designed, because it was already a great product. You already had the 5-star. You already have the 5-star rating. You can't go any higher than that. So it was just a timing thing.
Nice. And then it seems like it's definitely paying off. Like I said, my buddy who has a decent sized flag football league here in Michigan, I want to say this thing has a few thousand members. I'm gonna tell him that he needs to show the parents of his team or his organization, I guess, our interview, and then I'll try to kind of purchase a few caps or Loop bands
on something like that, because again, it's to protect kids, and it's flag football. They're saying it has less head injuries than contact football, but there still are incidental shits out there.
And the girls like it because they can wear their ponytails, and the guys like it because they can wear their braids and dreads and
ponytails
and man buns or whatever they want.
And again, I mean, I'm not going to put it on since I had the headphones on, but I actually put this thing on, and it's an actual comfortable band. It's not like, I guess I was thinking that it was going to be uncomfortable or it's going to be heavy or whatever, but it's actually like it's a pretty nice, comfortable fit, which I thought was pretty cool. So like you said, regardless of whether it's good to just be proactive in flag football, but also the fact that it actually is like more of it's cool. And not only is safety, but it actually has this coolness factor to it, which I thought was pretty cool.
We're going retro. It's like Nike's going retro. We're going retro with the headband.
So how? Because I was reading that you have the celebrities, and now these days it seems like all the celebrities have some type of a football team or a sports team. And I was reading that Snoop Dogg, he had purchased I think 2,000 for his team, and I think Jerome Bettis, from Detroit, and the Football Hall of Famer. How has that been to have those type of celebrities actually kind of pointing to your guys' product, like, hey, we want our team to have this product?
Yeah, just because it is a give back mission, we do a Guardian Gives Back program.
Okay.
So we actually donated those 2,000.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we donated those because he had a lot of underserved kids that couldn't, frankly, afford. Jerome Bettis and Tim Lester had a youth league in Atlanta when their boys were young and playing, called the Milton Steelers. And so Tim would come by and pick up caps, and the parents that could afford it would write us a check, and the others we would donate. So, anything we can do to really help and to seed programs is kind of a cool thing to do.
Nice. No,
the former players understand the benefits. Trust me.
No, yeah, for sure. Like I said, as a former player, man, it's days where you can tell that just playing football over the years, it catches up to you at some point. And like I said, I was only playing in the early 2000s and whatnot. I would imagine that when you were playing at the time they had leather helmets, that is even more of a thing where it kind of affects you later down in life. But just somebody who's playing where it was a little bit more safe compared to wearing leather helmets, I kind of still feel seems like the effects of just kind of the head injuries or whatnot later on in life. I would imagine if I had this back when I was playing, I would have been a lot better off.
Yeah, Drum, I mean, Drum is sharp as he can be. You know, Drum was the bus. And Tim Lester, they called him the bus driver. His email was even busdriver@gmail.com. But when Tim would come by, and Tim passed away during COVID, unfortunately, such an awesome man. But his wife would call when he was on the way and say, Erin, you got to look out for Tim. You know, he's been there 20 times, but he's going to get lost. So, yeah, Tim was, yeah, he was feeling the effects for sure. And, you know, that's just an unfortunate reality. You know, some guys tend to deal with it, you know, their bodies handle it a little better than others.
For sure. Yep, I absolutely agree with that. So then I guess switching gears here, because like you said, Guardian, it's kind of becoming synonymous with safety and like really like high performance. And not only have you successfully infiltrated the football space and now you're doing the hockey space, but then you like infiltrated the lacrosse space as well. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because obviously I kind of where I grew up at, it was more so football and basketball. You had some baseball and things like that, but lacrosse wasn't just a big thing from the environment that I grew up with. But I guess how did that come about? Because that seems like it's kind of so far from a football, but it seems like the product is great with the ball, and it seems like it's a number of different variations of the ball. So how did you guys kind of jump into the lacrosse space?
Again, concerned parents. Our son went from playing football to being a lacrosse goalie. And he was getting hit with a rubber ball. And rubber, you know, rubber is the same thing as your car tires. It just gets hard as a rock over time. So he was getting hit with a rock, a cue ball at 93 miles an hour. And we stitched up his chin. I think he had 16 stitches. Good gosh, at least 4 or 5 times because he's got a big head, right? And so that goalie mask would clip him and, you know, cut his chin. And I said, Jake, dude, you got to stop stopping the ball with your face, first of all. But, you know, welts all over his body. I mean, it would look like he had an entire ball under the skin of his shins because goalies won't wear shin guards. I mean, they're just ridiculous about, you know, about being tough. And so we said, why are we making a ball out of a material like rubber if it can't stay constant? And so Lee went back to the lab on the Hanson side and created a urethane ball. And so the players like it because it's called Pearl. You know, UVA had them first to test them for us, and they were digging for the pearl in the bottom of the bucket is what they would call it. They said,
I like that.
What
I like
you
that.
looking for? And they're like, well, all the balls are greased up, slicked up. They're hard as a rock. I'm looking for that grippy pearl in the bottom of the bucket. And so that's why we named it Pearl. And so we're the official ball of the NCAA this year, which is super cool.
So how does something like that come about? Because again, as I'm kind of reading this, that kind of blew me away. Maybe number one, that nobody had thought about this. I'm not sure how long lacrosse has been around, but the fact that no one has thought about this up until this point in time. But then
it was around 16. We were at a NOXI conference, which is the safety aspect for all the sports. They set the regulations, and they were sitting there. The technical director was talking about his son's a goalie in lacrosse too, but they're talking about a lot of these balls are getting really hard. Guys are getting hit, and they're breaking their orbital sockets, breaking jaw bones and stuff like that. And he was showing these lacrosse balls that are all greasy and hard, and he said they have a hardness spec as 110 to 210 was the hardness. And he said most of these are coming in off the shelf around 230 to 250 in hardness. And the reason is because it's made out of vulcanized rubber, made in China. And by the time it ships and gets over here, it continues to react. But on the box, it actually says guaranteed to be in specification at time of manufacture, not at time of play or use.
Yeah, and I said, I don't care what it is in Asia. I want, when it hits my son, I want it to be spec. And so Lee figured out that.
Well, we're in that meeting. I raised my hand and I said, hey, Dave, I think we can solve this problem. He goes, Lee, don't you make that funny looking Guardian cap thing? I said, yeah, that's me. And I said, but we make a lot of golf balls too. And I said, we understand technology elastomers, and it basically came down to it. He said, we can make this out of a different elastomer than rubber. He challenged me. We went back. We did it. 3 months later, we proved to him that we could. And what happened is we changed the national spec from 210 or 110 to 210 to 110 to 150.
So we were able to bring this spec down to make it safer for all kids, which was super, super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. Now, the players don't care about the safety aspect. They care about the fact that it's grippy from the beginning to end. And so it comes out of their stick consistently. And, you know, when you throw a shot, it's the same every time. That's what players care about. But we did it for the safety aspect.
Well, yeah, for sure. And I would imagine, just kind of trying to relate it to football. If I have a football that has no grip and I'm trying to carry it as a running back or throw it as a quarterback.
Yeah.
It'd be the same thing.
Yep. We've had, it's been fun because at the beginning, people are like, oh, sure, it never hardens. It never greases. So they bury it in snow. We had people put it in a pond. We've had people
Have their dog.
have the dog chew on it. It's like, dang, man, this thing really doesn't get slick.
We went to a meeting last year, and the coaches all said, we didn't believe you at the beginning, but now that we've used them for 2 and 3 years, and we're actually buying less balls than we used to buy.
Yep.
Because they're lasting longer. So we're like the tire company that made that 200,000 mile tire. So,
no built-in obsolescence here.
yeah.
So it seems like it was a pretty easy sell to the NCAA because, again, this is not like puppy stuff. This is like you said, being the official ball of the NCAA. That seems like that's a big thing. So, but it seems like based on all the polls, and was it an easy sell at that point to the NCAA to just adopt your ball as the official ball?
It just proof over time. And it's cool because, the NCAA governs sports in the United States, and we're the only ball manufactured in the States. We make it right here in our warehouse in Atlanta. So we're not shipping it overseas.
Do you believe that was another important step as opposed to having it invented or manufactured overseas, such as in China?
I would hope so. I'd hope there'd be some loyalty here.
Oh, and then it's a few different versions. So I don't want to go through all the versions, but I know you have the Pro X, the NX, and then the LT. So I guess what's the different, features of the different versions of the ball?
The X is the premium urethane ball.
Okay.
And the NX is a no bounce. So Lee formulated with chemistry. You drop it and it's just a dead ball. So when you're hitting wall ball and it's coming at you at 100 miles an hour, this one just comes back gently at you. And so, and if you're practicing in the Northeast and you're indoors, it's not ricocheting all over the gym and breaking the gym lights. So it's just a no bounce ball. It just dies.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, lacrosse seems like it's a growing sport. I know it's more and more I hear about it over the years. It seems like it's kind of gaining popularity in the U.S. Have you guys kind of seen the same thing?
We're hearing a lot of pro football players say that they wish they would have taken up lacrosse more when I saw a thing from Coach Prime saying that. He said, man, I wish I would have played lacrosse.
He said, you made your brother with a stick.
And I can see Coach Prime saying something like that.
I guarantee he'd be good at lacrosse too.
Good in everything. He's a good human being, I'll tell you.
No, I like Coach Prime. No, yelling. Yeah, definitely gaining popularity. That's pretty cool. So it seems like, Lee, that chemical engineering degree has paid off.
Yeah. Our newest foray into safety, which I'm super excited about, is once again, because we were in the rubber space, kind of analyzing what was going into lacrosse balls, we started hearing a lot about the synthetic fields. You hear a lot about turf fields now.
Oh yeah.
The filler that they use to keep those blades standing up, it's those rubber crumb pellets.
Yep.
So all they're doing is grinding up car tires. And, it was a way to save the landfills. They said, you know what? Our landfills are getting out of control. We'll just take these car tires, grind them up and putting on playing fields, which we were not, it's arsenic. It's all kinds of nasty chemicals, and it gets hot, and they cut your feet. I mean, you played. I'm sure you had the black pellets in your shoes and your socks and your mouth guard and everything else. So Lee went to the lab again and made a bio-based, really clean infill that's nice and smooth, and it's oval shaped, so it doesn't cut, and it interlocks, which gives the players they can push off on it and keep their speed. And he puffed it with air to reduce the impact, and then he put a reflective agent so it keeps the fields about 28 degrees cooler. So That's the one I'm really proud of.
No, yeah, and I was going to say, yeah, like you said, the heat that's generated or that's absorbed by those pellets, man, just, I guess I'm here in the Midwest, but if you're in the South and you're playing on a turf field, it be scorching based on those pellets.
Some of those fields get up to 150 degrees.
150 degrees, yeah.
I mean,
And then they're also saying, and I'm not sure how true this is as far as like the injuries. I know some of the professional athletes are saying, hey, they can kind of maybe be the cause of some injuries with, I guess, how things are like have been done with the turf fields. Have you guys had any feedback as far as, I guess, I'm not sure how far this is along and whether or not it's kind of being used or it's still kind of in a process. But have you gotten kind of good feedback?
And the NFL, I think I think we're the only one for Chicago Public Schools,
Yeah,
New York Public Schools. So no, we've got millions of pounds of infill out there. And now we're developing a whole turf system because you're right. The players are asking for like a universal system so that they've got consistency from field to field and there's no playing advantage at certain fields.
So hey, think about it. I mean, when you put chrome rubber out on, whether you're up in New York or you're in Las Vegas or Georgia or something like that, you're getting different types of materials being put down in different places. If you have one product that's engineered and you say, I want the exact same spec everywhere, it's not like putting trash down. It's like you're putting an engineered product down everywhere.
Yeah. So that's more patents.
I was going to say between, so I'm assuming that the lacrosse ball has a number of patents on it as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
No, man, wow, that is pretty cool. So I guess I have to ask this, and I know we're maybe kind of coming up on an hour, and I want to be respectful of your time. So Erin, how has, like, because again, you're saying you're a fifth grade teacher, and now all of a sudden you're thrust into this role of kind of running a company, helping out. So I guess, how has that been compared to being a fifth grade teacher? And do you think that, I guess anybody can make that transition?
Yeah. Being a teacher, you really learn to solve problems on your feet and you learn to manage personalities, and raising 5 children, you learn the same. I mean, there's a lot that you learn when you raise a family. That's for dang sure. Especially when you have 4 daughters, man, you got to keep that drama to a minimum. But we've got 3 children working with us, 2 sons-in-laws,
3 sisters.
3 sisters. So, we're a family-based, faith-based business at our core. And then you have just brought in some fantastic people around us.
But the thing is, without Erin here, this company wouldn't be what it is today, because I can develop all the products in the world, but it's she managing the people and keeping them around and keeping them motivated, it wouldn't be where it is today. So she's the glue that holds everything together.
It's when I grew up, my parents called me bullheaded and stubborn, and I think it's that don't quit attitude.
Yep.
Actually came in handy.
Well, for sure. And I have to think your son, Jake, he helped kind of put this together while you guys were out of town.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
That was pretty cool of him. And so do you plan on just kind of growing into the behemoth and just kind of keep running going forward, and kind of passing it down to along a family lineage, or at some point will you kind of maybe open or maybe sell at some point in a distant future? Is that something? Have you ever thought about that at all?
We have options.
Yeah, we have options.
It's good to have options.
With having family here, they can take it and run it, and we can go sail off somewhere and watch them run it and take care of. We got 9 grandbabies right now.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're slowing down a little bit, but as we've slowed down, the kids have stepped up.
Yes.
Yep.
I think it's exciting to kind of identify those problems in sports and try to save them and try to give the players what we feel like they deserve. It's like you said, who's ever looked at a lacrosse ball before? There's things that we take for granted that's as good as it gets, and that's not true. There's always improvements that can be made that help players with the performance, but also help with the health and safety of it.
No, and I think that's it for me. And I love hearing that, because this wasn't something like, okay, we were in the sports arena for all these years, and again, you had expertise lead from your chemical engineering background and Hanson Group, but then just being able to apply that in different areas to solve problems, because that's all this is, whether it's business or patent law, whatever the case, it's all solving problems. So to be able to kind of take the experience and kind of apply it in different arenas and to solve problems, that's a beautiful thing. And just being able to kind of build something off of it, like you said, Guardian has become synonymous with safety. So and again, it took a long time coming, and I'm pretty sure it was ups and downs, and that's just kind of a part of the process. But just being able to build something off it, that has to feel, man, amazing.
We call it a 12-year overnight success story.
So was it a time that you at some point, like, because again, you said you were at the medical conference in the last day or whatever, you're like, hey, what are we doing here? So outside of that time, was it just a time just kind of with Guardian that you're like, hey, what the heck are we doing here? We can go be doing this, and it's a proven concept. We're successful at it.
What are we doing? Why are we doing this? And we just.
But it's all those stories we get back. I mean, we get these stories. These coaches come back and tell us the success they've had with the program and how they've reduced the number of concussions and everything else, and that's what keeps us going.
Yeah, you get a former player. It was neat because since we've been on Clemson from they were right after South Carolina, and you start doing these trade shows where these former players are now coaches who can come up and say, "Man, I went to class. My head wasn't fuzzy. I didn't have a headache.
Nice.
It was freaking awesome." When people are telling you those kind of stories, you really don't want to give up. You're like, "Dadgummit, I'm going to stick with this."
And that definitely keeps you going, and that's I guess from a business standpoint, a business owner, that seems like that's what you need. I remember every day before practice, it's kind of, and this is not a good thing by any means, but just the reality of the situation, just taking like 800 milligrams of ibuprofen just to try to get through that practice from the pain, but just being able to have a product that's going to get you through, that has to be good. I guess maybe my last question is, what advice would you two have for just kind of up and coming entrepreneurs? Because again, you're able to kind of successfully make kind of career changes and navigate the business and the entrepreneurship space. And I would imagine that you guys learned a ton of things along the way. What advice would you kind of give someone who's trying to maybe kind of follow in your footsteps or just kind of thinking about going that path?
Well, I think you have to understand that it does take time, and you have to put those hours in. You have to stand at those trade shows when nobody's walking up to the table. You have to attend standard setting, rule making conferences that, are pretty dry, but you have to be there, and you have to make relationships. And even when, we were the person they didn't want in the room, we showed up anyway, and you smile and you shake hands, and you kind of lay the groundwork for what you're trying to do. And hopefully if the mission's right, it propels forward, sometimes really, really slowly. But, we still do the same thing. When we went to a concussion symposium in DC and didn't talk to anybody for the first 2 days. And it was at the end of the third session when the NFL announced their Head Out Tech Challenge Award. Had we not been there, we would, so it's just really showing up.
And the other part about it, just like what Erin said, is that you have to be able to stick to it and be as self-funded as you can, because too many people on outside venture capital, angel funding, and stuff like that, and those guys won't return their money. They want it fast, and eventually guys just give up because I can't meet the returns, and they give up. And luckily, we can stick to it and just keep on going.
And we were cheap,
It's good to be cheap.
You're not flying first class when it's your own money. You're not staying at the Four Seasons. That's for dang sure. You do what you got to do to show up and to have that tabletop. So
that's good. Yeah, just not overspending. And I like what you said. Just kind of playing a long game and just kind of just understand it's going to be a process, because it seems like these days with social media and kind of technology going so quick, everybody wants it now, and everybody wants to have success, like you said, overnight. But in reality, it just doesn't work like that.
No, I didn't work like that for us. That's for dang sure.
So then I guess maybe the final thing is, how can people get in touch with you, whether it's social media, whether it's the website? How can people get in touch or just follow you and your guys' story?
Yeah, we're on all of social media. So if you go to guardiansports.com, all of our social media channels are there. We have submission forms, if you'd like to contact us, or, you can even fill out a get the quote form and it still goes to the same email. And if I see it, we're happy to get back. We love when students reach out to us. If anybody, has questions.
Erin responds to every one of these kids that say, I'm doing a research project in high school. Can I get some information? Erin responds back to every one of them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Happy to help when we can. So sure, reach out. We're always around. But if you're going to touch us on Twitter, say something nice.
Nice. No, well, I definitely appreciate you all again giving me some time here today. I thought your guys' story is really fascinating, and I definitely think the audience will get something out of it. And hey, for all the football players or hockey players or cross players, go check out some of the products because at least speaking for the loop, and this thing is pretty comfortable as I kind of worn it on my head. And anytime you can chance to kind of protect yourself and prevent injuries and things like that, that's what it's about. Because I can tell you, as someone who's in his 30s, I wish this was out back when I was coming up playing. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
No, definitely. Well, until next time, audience, take care.